And after 400 hours of playing, I think I have an answer. When I first asked this question, I had a lot of people respond and say, yes, very much. This game is worth playing for the story. It's one of the best stories in gaming. It's the best Final Fantasy story ever. But I also had some people in the comments say, you know what? Actually, no, it's not. The game may be worth playing, but not necessarily because of the story. So even the community is split on this one. So which one is right? That's kind of what we're going to talk about today. And why there is this split. What are the things that turn people off but excite so many other people? And overall, is this game and story worth it for you to try out in 2024? One of the reasons people love the story in Final Fantasy XIV is because most MMOs don't have great stories. And if you're coming from other MMOs like Classic WoW that don't have much of a story at all, Final Fantasy's story will surely stand out to you as one of its biggest differences. There is also a lot of story in this game. This game has been developed for 10 years now. There are 5 full expansions, A Realm Reborn, Heavensward, Stormblood, Shadowbringers, and Endwalker. Hundreds of side quests and things that have been added in over the years. But does a lot of story equal a good story? Just like a lot of animes, there is a bunch of filler in Final Fantasy XIV. There are many side quests and even some of the main quests that aren't necessarily relevant to the main plot. For some people, this extra world building is a bonus. If you like the world, you like the story, this filler content may not bother you at all. But on the flip side, there are a lot of people that don't really enjoy filler and see it as a waste of time. And if you're one of those people, this story may let you down a bit. Not to mention, a lot of the game is not voiced. There's going to be a lot of reading. As the game goes on, they do include more and more voice acting, but even in the later expansions, there's still a lot of very long-winded paragraphs that just seem to never end. Personally, I do think this is a flaw in the game's storytelling. There's a famous quote from French philosopher Pascal that says, "I would have written a shorter letter, but I didn't have the time." As for somebody that writes and makes YouTube videos myself, I can certainly attest to this. The videos where I write everything down and really try to condense it are definitely the videos that I feel are better than the ones where I just go on and try to explain every little thing. Final Fantasy XIV could definitely benefit from being condensed a bit. So much so that the developers have actually already gone back and done some of this. They've taken out dozens of quests that really had nothing to do with the main plot. And in my opinion, they could probably take out a few more. Again, it seems like this is a matter of preference because I've even heard some people say that they wish they still could play some of those quests that were taken out. But the long-winded nature of this game definitely wore on me. And at the end of my 400 hours of playing this game, I eventually became apathetic towards the story because of it. Now, I do feel like maybe this wouldn't have been as big of a problem for me if I played the game in smaller chunks over 10 years, as others have that played the game since it came out. But if you're looking to play through it today, this is how you're going to experience it as well, unless you deliberately take breaks, which might be a better way to go through the game, but doesn't necessarily excuse these criticisms. Another thing to be aware of is that as I was going through the game and expressing some of these criticisms, people would often tell me that, oh, don't worry, it gets better. Just around the corner, the story gets better, and there's less fetch quests. And while that might technically be true, there might be less fetch quests and less filler quests as you go on. They never fully go away. This is very much how this story is told. There are also some specific writing and story moments that I just didn't like at all. Getting into them would be getting into spoiler territory, but I'll just say there are some big moments in this game, some really awesome high highs, but then there are some things later on in the game that sort of take some of the impact away from those big moments and cheapen them a little bit. All that to say, I think there definitely are flaws with this game's stories, and for some people it's going to be a turnoff, but for others they are able to look past them and still love the game for what it is. Whether or not you will like the story or not, I think will have a lot to do with your tolerance for long-winded exposition and fetch quests. If you have a high tolerance, these things won't seem like a bore, and it'll all feel worth it when you get to the big payoffs this game inevitably has. But for me, all of the criticisms that I've shared, and some others, make it hard for me to recommend it for its story alone. I just simply don't think it's the strongest part of this game. If you've watched my other videos, you already know I have other criticisms of the game as well, based off its difficulty, the itemization, the open world not having a lot of reasons to explore. But I do want to end on some of the reasons why I feel like this game is worth playing for some people. people. Recently, I had a conversation with fellow YouTuber Nerdy who's playing through the game right now, and he is absolutely loving it. Nerdy has a family and he doesn't have a lot of time to play 20-25 hours into some grindy MMO. This game has a lot of quality of life features that makes it pretty easy to just jump in and have a good time. The developers have openly said that we don't want this game to consume your life, we want you to be able to play other games, which is a stark contrast to other MMOs. And the quality of life doesn't stop there. There are things like fast travel, the ability to switch between different classes on the fly with one character. And for those that do want more of a challenge and a grind, they do have some dungeons and some raids that are specifically for that are very difficult, that can take you a long time to get through. The game also has a very loyal fan base, very welcoming and open to new players. And even though I put the game down, I feel like 400 hours is an absolute win in my book. I've played this game longer than I've played almost any game ever. I don't tend to play MMOs and I don't put in thousands of hours into games generally. So even if you're like me and you don't end up enjoying the story, there's still a lot of fun to be had and it's not all bad. But like I said, I just don't feel like I can honestly say that the story is the strongest part of this game. If you are interested in hearing what games I do feel like are very much worth playing for their stories, you can subscribe because that's a video that I'm going to be making next on the channel. And like I mentioned, I know there are people that disagree with this take, that think this story is amazing, it's their favorite story of all time. If that's you, please feel free to leave a comment and explain why you love the story so much so that potential new players that are watching this video can get a different perspective. With all that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.